Hey there, how's it going? So today I'll be giving out some practical academic tips for Cal Poly students, and this is going to be most beneficial for incoming as well as underclassmen students. However, there are probably going to be some tidbits that you can take away from this video, even if you're, third or fourth year. So to start off, the first tip that I would talk about is with regards to registration. You've probably heard, or if you haven't, registration is extremely difficult, pretty much universally for students at Cal Poly. However, there are things you can do about that in order to get better registration. Of course, if you're an athlete or if you're in the school band or in some other program, then you'd pretty much get a very good priority registration. However, if that's not the case, then of course, there are still things you can do. For example, you can apply for school programs like the honors program, or you can also lead a workshop where essentially you tutor students in classes a few days a week, and you'd get priority registration through those opportunities as well, which is, I guess, more accessible for a lot more students. So, there's definitely things you can do in order to get better registration, and so don't feel like it's just a doomsday and you can't really do anything about it. And so this kind of leads me to my second point, which is about taking community college GEs. So GEs, which stand for General Education classes, there are quite a few of them that you have to take at Cal Poly and I guess in college in general. And one way you can sort of address that is taking a lot of GEs early on at community colleges, and the benefits are that these classes you can take asynchronously, so there's a much lower workload typically, and also by taking them earlier on, and as well as in the summer, which can be convenient for a lot of students, your registration or your graduation progress significantly can increase, which will put you in a higher registration bracket. So that's kind of two benefits in just one thing. Both you get better registration due to higher graduation progress, as well as taking an asynchronous sort of lighter workload and getting that knocked out early on. My next piece of advice would be that course substitutions are always worth a try. Now, if you're not familiar, at Cal Poly and probably likely lots of other schools, you can substitute certain courses for other certain course requirements. So for instance, if you're required to take some sort of tech elective for your major, but you take a class that's not listed as a tech elective, then if there's enough overlap and enough relevance in terms of topics of that class you took to your major, then you can try submitting a course substitution request, and your department will go over that and then either approve or reject it. A lot of times you might think, oh yeah, there's no way this course would get substituted in, so I'm just not going to fill out the form. However, it is definitely worth a try in a lot of circumstances, and there's a huge upside. Of course, you just get one class knocked out of the way, and that furthers your graduation progress, and there's very little downside. If it gets rejected, then it's not the end of the day at all. So course substitutions are always worth a try, and that's my second piece of advice. Another thing that's always worth a try is attempting to get prereqs waived for classes that interest you. So sometimes you'll see in the current quarter that there's a class that really interests you and that's being offered. However, the problem is that there are some prerequisites or prereqs that seem to bar you from taking that class. If you think you can still succeed in that class realistically, maybe whether it be your background knowledge or the prerequisites not seeming to be a hard prerequisite, then it's definitely worth talking to the professor of the class and just going over this with them. And chances are, if you're right about this, then the professor will actually waive the prerequisites for you. I've had a lot of friends who have done things like this. For instance, if you're a computer science major and you want to take more of a computer engineering or electrical engineering oriented class, but you don't have the hardware prerequisites for it, then you can definitely talk to the professor and see if waiving the prerequisites and just directly taking the class that interests you is a feasible option. My next piece of sort of related advice is to take the hard classes that interest you. I know it can definitely be easy to take sort of the comfortable route and just take the classes that a lot of your friends are taking, or the class that seems sort of easier in the moment. However, I think definitely taking the hard classes that you're definitely genuinely interested in will of course pay off long term, and it will really allow you to dig deep into that subject and really see if it's something that truly interests you and is something you want to further explore. So that's really the benefit of taking hard classes. Both, of course, you'll learn a lot regardless of if you decide you want to pursue a career in that subject, and if not, you'll see that maybe that subject or that topic is not something that you're as passionate about as you had previously thought. Alright, so number 6 on the list, and that is don't follow every single part of the academic flowchart. So Cal Poly offer these nice academic flowcharts for every major, which you can find on flowcharts.calpoly.edu. And these flowcharts can be very helpful, especially early on in your major, when you're not necessarily super confident about registration, or a lot of the classes are more standard and universal. And these flowcharts just lay out suggested classes for you to take each quarter over the course of 4 years typically. However, I would say that in a lot of cases you'll see that you're interested in certain classes and you have the prerequisites for them, but the flowchart might list them as suggested classes to take in your 3rd or 4th year of college. I would say in most cases it's probably worth just taking the class as early as possible when you're confident enough and you have the sufficient prerequisites. And really just to remember that the flowchart is meant to be sort of these general suggestions for any student to come in and be able to succeed at Cal Poly, but ultimately you know yourself best, and it's really a case-by-case basis in terms of the classes that you want to take. So really just consider what classes you really want to take, and if it doesn't align with the flowchart, that's not really a problem. So my next 2 pieces of advice are more related to the job search rather than just Cal Poly classes. And so the first piece of advice within that would be to take advantage of the Cal Poly interview rooms. So Career Services at Cal Poly offers these really nice interview rooms that you can take advantage of in order to have a great interview experience without any distractions. I think if you just search up Cal Poly interview rooms, this should be the one of the first, if not the first, results that pop up. So you can reserve an interview room within a few days in advance, and then get this really nice quiet room to be able to have a nice interview in. So that's the first piece of sort of career-oriented advice. And then the second piece of advice that I would say is to go to the career fairs early on. So the really nice thing about Cal Poly is that they offer at least one career fair every quarter, and when you come in and you're a freshman, it can be definitely daunting to go to these career fairs, especially when you might feel like you don't have a lot of experience or knowledge, especially compared to upperclassmen that are there. However, I would say that you should definitely go to these career fairs early on, at least for the experience of talking to employers and marketing yourself to them, because there's a lot of benefits you don't immediately realize, such as improving your communication skills, learning more about other companies, and then also connecting with employers. And you never know, you probably tend to underestimate yourself a lot when it comes to events like these, and so you might really stand out, or you might get an opportunity from an employer. So once again, it's really a case of something with huge upside and really no downside. So I would say going to the career fairs early on is a great piece of advice I could give you. So those were all my academic tips for incoming as well as current Cal Poly students. I hope this video was helpful, and of course if you have any questions or any suggestions, then feel free to leave them down below, And if you found this video to be helpful, then consider liking and subscribing, and I'll see you next time. Thank you.